This is Tom at the Troy Fair again, and we're looking at the final picture of the series, and this one is titled "The King Has Power Over Death," and of course the king that we're referring to is Jesus, and in the painting this represents the empty tomb. And some people may be wondering, the resurrection really doesn't make sense because men don't rise from the dead, and the key to understanding that is to realize that who Jesus really is. Now these symbols under the tomb is written in Hebrew. It's the Hebrew language, and would be how you would write the phrase "I am," which is how God identified himself as "I am." And to the ancient Hebrew, particularly what they would have understood in hearing "I am," it would have meant that whoever spoke that, saying "I am," is saying "I am eternal and I am self-existent." And so when we recognize that Jesus is "I am," we recognize then that he is also the creator. And so this represents creation and going over into the Garden of Eden. And here we have Adam and Eve in the garden where they are deceived by Satan through the body of the serpent. And they disobeyed God and sinned. And God had told them that disobedience would cause death, that they would surely die. And so after their sin, death came into the world. And this figure here represents death with the sides. And the darkness is propagating out from that as a result of sin and death. But here we have a scale or a balance in which God perfectly balances judgment and mercy through Jesus' death on the cross. So judgment required death as a penalty for sin and disobedience, but in God's mercy, he actually took that death on himself in the person of Jesus Christ. So we do not have to experience that death if we accept the offer of forgiveness and salvation that is made through. But we see here the cross reaches all the way back to creation, because Scripture tells us that Jesus was a lamb slain before the foundation of the earth. So that was always God's plan, to deal with the disobedience and sinfulness of man was through the death of Christ on the cross. So Jesus died as a man, but because he was also God, he was also "I am," death could not contain him. And someone who is self-existent and eternal, it doesn't make sense that they could die and remain dead. And so Jesus did not. So he was raised from the dead, and the cross points to the future as well, because we know from Scripture that Jesus is going to return again someday and is going to reign as king. So thank you. This is from the Troy Fair.